Since humans have lived in groups, conflict has always existed. It can arise from many sources: competition over land and resources, struggle for power, or deeply held beliefs. While conflict itself is not new, the way it manifests today has become increasingly frequent, more violent, and more dangerous to others. Violence is defined as the use of physical force intended to harm, damage, or kill someone or something. One form of this is political violence, which includes threats or acts of violence directed at individuals or groups in order to achieve political or ideological goals. Another major form is gun violence, which includes the use of firearms intended to cause harm or death. These forms of violence are no longer distant or rare events. They affect everyday life, shaping how people feel in their homes, schools, and workplaces. They influence how communities interact, how governments respond, and how people trust each other. Beyond the immediate harm, violence leaves long-term effects. Families are torn apart, communities experience trauma, and fear becomes normalized. When violence becomes common, it changes how people think, act, and engage with the world around them.
Gun violence is a serious problem in the United States. It occurs when somebody uses a firearm to injure, threaten, or kill another person. While guns have been part of American history for hundreds of years, gun violence today is far more common and far more deadly now than in the past. In early American history, guns were mainly used for hunting, self-defense, and war. The Second Amendment was written in the 1700s at a time when guns were slow to load and not very powerful. Over time, firearms became faster, stronger, and far more easier to use. However, gun laws have not always kept up with these changes, which made gun control and gun violence way more difficult. Today, gun violence affects communities across the country. Thousands of people die every second from gun violence-related incidents, including suicide, homicides, and mass shootings. Schools, workplaces, and public spaces now prepare for active shooter situations, creating fear and stress for many people. Shockingly, gun violence is also one of the leading causes of death for children and teenagers in the United States. Access to firearms and the strength of gun control laws play a big role in this problem. In some states, people can buy guns with very few rules or background checks. Many people believe that stronger gun laws could help reduce violence, while others argue that gun control takes away personal rights. Gun violence affects safety, mental health, and daily life in communities across the country. Families, schools, and neighborhoods feel all these effects. Until better solutions are found, gun violence will continue to be a serious challenge in the United States.
Throughout United States history, it has repeatedly surfaced during moments of deep social tension and political change. From periods of economic inequality and racial division of times of political instability, acts of violence have often reflected larger struggles within society. These moments reveal how conflict tends to escalate when institutions fail to address underlying grievances or protect vulnerable populations. Examining violence in this historical context helps explain why it has remained a persistent challenge rather than an isolated series of events. Understanding these patterns is essential to understanding how violence continues to shape the nation today. Violence has been closely connected to major social conflicts and power struggles. Early American society was shaped by violent systems such as slavery and forced displacement, followed by periods of civil unrest, racial violence, and political conflict. In later years, violence appeared during labor disputes, civil rights struggles, and moments of intense political division. The widespread presence of firearms has also affected how violence occurs, which often increases its severity. While levels of violence have risen and fallen over time, historical patterns show that it often increases during time of inequality, fear, or rapid social change. This highlights the role of government policies and institutional choices in either reducing conflict or allowing violent conditions to persist. The national homicide rate increased by approximately 27% in 2020, representing one of the largest year-to-year increases on record, with elevated levels continuing into 2021. During the same period, firearm background check data indicates that gun purchasing activity was roughly 60% higher than expected to compare to previous years. As shown in the figure, observed monthly background checks per 100,000 people from 2014 through 2021 rose well above projected levels beginning in early 2020, with increasing ranging from about 40% to 60% and remaining elevated from an extended period. While these trends do not establish a direct causal link, they demonstrate how increases in violent outcomes occurred alongside broader changes in firearm access during a time of widespread disruption. Taken together, the data frame violence as a population-level phenomenon that can be analyzed through measurable trends rather than individual behavior or ideology.
Political violence is a category of violence that's defined as the deliberate use of force or intimidation to achieve one's political goals. Throughout time, political violence has toppled and created empires and nations. However, today we see that rates of political violence, especially in the US, are increasing at an exponential rate. Between 2016 and 2020, there was an average rate of around 25 to 50 reported incidents. Contrastingly, between 2021 and 2024, there was an average of 75 to 100 plus reported incidents. Pew Research conducted a poll where they surveyed 3,445 adults with nearly identical shares of both Republican and Democratic parties on what they believe is causing political violence and if it is on the rise. The results state that 85% believe that political violence is increasing, with just over half stating that left-wing extremism, 53%, and right-wing extremism, 52%, are major problems. However, when asked about what is responsible for the increasing political violence, partisans commonly answered that it was the opposite party that was responsible. 77% of right-wing extremism is a major issue, with the majority of each party believing that the other party is responsible for the increased rates of political violence, a gap that is growing further, separating the two parties, increasing the political polarity, with President Trump feeding the flame. After the January 6th insurrection, where MAGA and right-wing extremists stormed the Capitol building in hopes of preventing President Biden from taking an oath on the front lawn of the Capitol building, nooses were being constructed, with people chanting to hang Democratic senators and Vice President Mike Pence after President Trump posted that Pence doesn't have the guts to do what it takes. This is what President Trump had to say when running for the next election. "My first act as your next president will be to close the border, drill baby drill, and free the January 6 hostages who are being wrongfully imprisoned." Statements like that encourage political violence, with people believing that there is no repercussions for their actions. Posts from President Trump on his social media platform, Truth Social, have made Democrats be viewed as enemies. As a result, some Democratic leaders have been receiving death threats to them and their families. When President Trump issued unconstitutional orders to the members of the U.S. military, and a Democratic group of senators and military officials spoke out, telling service members that they don't need to follow these orders. This was President Trump's response. Political violence has been cause of wars and deconstruction of governments. Now the U.S. is experiencing a time of political unrest, creating a rivalry between Republican and Democratic parties, which is increasing the chance of political violence to occur.
Political violence, or violence of any kind through threats, shootings, or discrimination, are a strong source of division in our country and shouldn't be as commonplace as it is today. Tensions between political parties and ideologies have only increased in recent years, and this needs to stop. Fortunately, we have some possible solutions to help remedy this. For starters, communities should promote stronger civic education, engagement, and debate. This is to develop trust in institutions and political processes. In addition, it gets the people involved and reinforces strong American values. But this alone won't fix everything. We need more action. This is why we suggest reasonable gun restrictions. Not banning, as that right is written into the Constitution, but some simple safety measures to ensure that innocent lives aren't at risk. For starters, safe and secure placement of all firearms in your homes. Sometimes shootings happen because of unpermitted access to firearms by others in the household. It should be locked, unloaded, or have the safe mode on and stored in your safe. Firearm purchaser licensing is another solution. The process in states that have these laws works something like this: getting fingerprinted, undergoing an intricate background check, and involving safety training requirements as well as a test. The reason this solution is effective is because they are limiters to getting guns to those who are not mentally well enough to be trusted, but very doable for those who are mentally sound. In 2019, homicide rates were 15% lower than the states without those laws. Imagine how much higher that number would go if all states implemented similar gun restrictions. Speaking of which, expanding upon valuable mental health resources to aid those with depression, bipolar, and other disorders that may lead to harm to others, Treating them with the help of therapy can severely reduce the likelihood of gun violence. 5% of murders are caused by those with psychotic mental illness, but 25 of those are caused by those with non-psychotic mental disorders. This means that many of these illnesses that are associated with violence in politics are treatable with care and support. While none of these solutions are perfect on their own, putting in one or several would make for incredible first steps. We do not wish to have guns taken away, just some regulations to ensure that innocents don't get hurt, not just in everyday life, but also in politics. Politics are something that many take personally. This results in intense emotions which, if not regulated, can be disastrous to everyone, including yourself. Political violence is a very real and prevalent thing in America. While we discuss guns, threats and hate speech are very common to hear in politics and are a serious form of political violence. An example of this would be, say, claims of stolen elections against political opponents, such as during the presidential election of 2020 against Joe Biden. If we take some of the steps to come together, we can work to mitigate it. Threats, attacks, everything. We have to put forth the effort to try. Average people don't deserve violence for expressing political opinions. I encourage you to do everything in your power to advocate for those who are victims of political/gun violence. Help those who need mental help and make America safer. Your voice matters, and your efforts will contribute to a better future. This has been our video on political violence.